Me, because I'm by myself today. Cameron is out of the country doing something crazy. I'm not even sure what, how he is. So he has left me to fend for myself and of the internet and questions all by. Welcome to the Ask Us Anything, known as our office hour, also known as the or more formally known as the Startup Reality Check, where we bring you our weekly dose of startup reality applied to whatever it is that you want to talk about. So you can drop your questions into the chat. We'll prioritize the live questions. You can ask us anything from ideas to traction to growth to fundraising, product market fit. It's all fair game here at the Traction Lab. We got 3 questions that were submitted in advance. And so I will take those questions while I'm waiting for your live ones to come in. If you want to ask a question in advance, make sure it gets into the queue, or maybe because you just want a little extra breathing room, you can go to tractionlab.io, hit the content link. There's a big button there to ask a question. You can just throw us your as several of you, I do not the host today, so Cameron will not be warming up the chat. I'll have to do without the chat warm up myself. But on YouTube, you know what to do. The little box over there. Type in your message or down here if you're on the mobiles and on LinkedIn. I think it's always down below. Anyway, just drop a comment right on here, and I'll take your question. It'll come live here. So cool. But with that having been said, let's dive in, and then I'll take a question, have some other things that we can talk about, some cool updates on some things that are happening, and then hopefully that'll give enough time for a live question to come in, because I'm solo today. But here we go. Let's do this. Rock and roll, lock and load. Let's do this. All the things. So question number 1 that came in from the interwebs was, let's see, a B2B SaaS for small accounting firms. They say that their product is live, but they are pre-revenue. And they say it's a client portal for accountants to share documents and get signatures. They have 130 firms signed up, but nobody's paying yet. They say they already use email and DocuSign. We're cheaper than DocuSign, but switching seems like too much work for them. Okay, didn't ask a question, but I'll read between the lines of what you said there and say, like, okay, how do we get people to pay? We're cheaper, but nobody's really switching. Okay, so now we're going to come to a really important or problem, common concern, whatever you want to call it, in value proposition design. And I'll state it pretty aggressively, which is that nobody does something because it's cheaper or faster. And those are always the value propositions that people want to do. Oh, we're cheaper than, we're faster than them, cheaper, faster, better, whatever it is. And that's never why anybody buys. Those are at best really generic, but at worst, they're actually just hiding a lot the other things that they might be trying out of that. And so you can ask, like, therefore, or so what. So like if they get time, what is that time used for? Why do they care that they get more time? So for example, if you have an employee and you're paying an employee to do some work for you, and do you care if they spend less time? Well, if they're a part-time employee, you might, because you're paying for extra hours. If they're a full-time employee, but so you can't get rid of them. It doesn't save you anything to make their lives easier, to save time, then that doesn't really do anything. And that time savings also has to be a pain that it causes them to need to overcome this willing decision to adopt a new tool, which takes time, it takes money, it takes all of, and maybe even more, to actually get this solution to in place. And here you're talking about something with an adoption cost. You not a small accounting firm, but you still got all the people who work from have to use it, all the communications that they're used to seeing out a particular way. I don't know how interfaces with the other systems but there's potentially some integration stuff that has to work there. At the minimum, there's business process changes and all of that. Not to mention, on top of that, there's all of the concern. Well, this is now client facing. This is going to our clients. They're used to getting emails, so that makes sense to them. And everybody signs on DocuSign, so that makes kind of sense to them. They are used to that. And now we just have this unknown thing sitting out here where you're going to be communicating with our customers for us, and not just by your email. And there's this portal, and that creates risk. There's all that stuff. And if they have that's sufficient severity urgency that's going to drive them to become a willing buyer, to overcome those switching costs, then cool. Like, then they're willing to do that. But what they're telling you is that they're not. So when they're saying, okay, we already use email, we already use docu, and they're actually saying is you're just not creating value. It doesn't matter that you're cheaper. That might help you get a new deal if somebody's comparing the two of you, maybe, but it's not going to cause anybody to switch. So where does that leave you? You didn't ask a specific question, so I'm just going to kind of infer here. Where that leaves you is you're not onto something, not yet. And so it's time to have those deeper conversations with customers to find out if they have a problem that is severe and urgent that you can solve for them, or if there is something time and energy can unlock for them that you can sell. But without any of those things, you're never going to sell to this group of customers, which leads to the next thing, which is there another that does have that exact problem, but with sufficient severity and urgency that makes them a willing buyer where the small accounting firms were not. So those are kind of some of the play around with that. But at the moment, you're just onto something. And this is we always talk about at the Traction Lab of trying to get a product live, get people using it, and nobody pay it, because this is exactly the situation where you get up, where you end up in. It's easy to get people to try something. It's really difficult to get them to pay for it. And so the more that you just say, well, we'll figure out the revenue piece later, you're basically saying, I'm deferring the hard part until much later. And that just doesn't do you any good. So don't recommend it. Just not a good approach. Question. Got two more that were pre-submitted, but we do prioritize the live because traveling out of the country. But if you have got only minion and not the friend enter that you've come to be used to here at our office, I drop that into the chat and I will prioritize it. The second question, which is a good one on freelance graphic designers, a couple things. So applications are open right now for the Traction Lab Investment Readiness Engine. This is a super awesome program that we were really excited to get off the ground. It helps you de-risk your startup with investment through that good stuff. We focus on two big key things over 9 months. One is to help build the need to believe, that's repeatable customer acquisition, validated pilots, real metrics, and the capital story that can provide that, but also focusing on the growth aspect as well. So focusing on customer acquisition, go to market, all of that stuff as well. So go to market, customer acquisition, capital readiness, 9 months, boom, supporting you guys on that. And then we're ending that period with a showcase where the startups that are in our investment readiness engine are competing for $100,000 SPV equity investment into your company that we're putting together. So kind of a cool program sponsored by the city of Sacramento, which we are really grateful. We got one of their innovation grants to help us put this thing on this year. So that means it is of no cost to you founders to participate. We do not take equity in your company with the exception of the SPV as an equity investment. But aside from that, a monetary investment to the company at the end. It doesn't cost you anything but time, and time is the most precious resource that you have. But if you're willing to put some of that up for sale here to get some focus on go-to-market and customization and some of that capital readiness, we'd love to support you in the journey. You do have to be local to the region here in Sacramento. But if you're curious about that, go to tractionlab.io/IRE, or just go to tractionlab.io and hit the programs button, and there's a link for the investment readiness engine. You can read some more about that, and there's a link to apply. I will also put that in the show notes wherever you're watching this, but check that out as well. The second thing that I wanted to share before I get to the next question, whatever questions you ask live, as well left that I have that were is that we're going to be kicking off our cohort for the Traction Lab Venture School pretty soon. So if you want to focus on getting paying customers for your startup, we're going to be rocking and rolling in June with our next cohort. And so we are actively recruiting cool startups to come and join. It's a full year of support from the Traction Lab, online community, all kinds of resources, some live instruction as well, weekly private office hours with us, some one-on-one attention if that's your bag, and access to Traction Lab events and all kinds of cool things. So if you want to how do we get paying customers, more paying customers, and turn that into a repeatable, and hit up the TrackSum, go to tracksum.io/TLVS, and right there you can join. So we'd love to have you in that. But enough shameless, back to public service. So feel free to drop your questions in live if you want to ask a question in advance to get a little bit more breathing room. It's a question I'm about to take. TracksLab.io, to the content link. There's a big button that you can push to submit a question. And the next question that got pre-submitted was a B2B SaaS play for freelance graphic designers in the unpaid pilot stage. And they say it's time tracking and invoicing for designers with 8 pilots. They've gotten good feedback, but there's already like 50 tools that do this. Not sure why anyone would switch to us specifically. What's our differentiation supposed to be? UI than old tools, but that didn't seem like enough. So this is like a question that I can't really answer, and it's a funny question to ask. Like, like switch to us. It'd be if like standing up here in the 2 programs that I was just pitching, I'd be like, I don't know why you'd go with the Traction Lab. There's a lot of programs out there. I don't know why you'd go with the Traction Lab. But I actually know exactly why people pick a Traction Lab. People pick a Traction Lab for the same reason they come here for the reality check, is that they want to get that real focus on paying customers and that real focus on forward motion and fundability, and less on the bullshit of like, oh, here's how you tell a better story. And, investor tells you that your business model sucks. We're going to tell you how to tell a better story around it. No, we're going to tell you how to fucking not have a shitty business model. That's what the Action Lab. So that's why people pick us. If you want to just go and there's plenty of YouTube videos you can watch, books you can read, I'm happy to recommend them if that's your bag. But that's not what people come to us. And the reason that is true is because we identified a gap market. We identified an underserved segment of founders, particularly around the seed stage, from like pre-seed to Series A, who need that. Like, these general 8 accelerator programs just aren't right for them. It's a waste of time. They're focused on learning when they need to be focused on actually doing, on actually building a better company. And that we have money here in the region. There's equity investment being made into our ecosystem. Not as much as we'd like, but there's plenty of money that is being injected into startups, right? We've got an idea factory. We got plenty of people like churning out ideas, but between those 2 it's not a lot. And so like you can get that really early help to get your idea off the ground, but that's like, what do you do when it comes to translate some of that early motion into something that is scalable and investable in that fashion? There's kind of a gap there. We said, let's fill that gap. So that's what we did. Now, getting back to your question, like this is what you have to do. Like, you've designed this tool to do time tracking and invoicing for designers. And my question is, why? Like, I'm assuming at the outset, there was a reason you did that as opposed to just doing one of the other tools that were out there. This had to have come from somewhere. And so what was it that you saw? Was it honestly just that tools out there didn't have a great UI? Like, then that's probably not great news. Is better. Why? Like, that doesn't create a fear and problem. So they're not going to over switching costs or pay money to try to solve it. So that sucks. But if there's another, and because you happen to design it competently and more modernly, you also have this great UI, then that's great, because you can lean into the modern part. But the big thing that you're trying to solve is this other thing, and I don't know what that is. Assuming that you don't know what that is, then here's what to do next. It's time to have a lot of conversations, right? So you're at the unpaid pilot stage. You've got 8 pilots with good feedback. I don't know what that means because they're unpaid. So I don't know what these pilots are for, or like what good feedback is, or what the target is, or if you can get these people to pay, or anything like that. Those are kind of just open questions. I think what you've probably given them is just a free trial, and they're like, sure, I'll do a free trial. That's really low stakes, really low. So, have conversations with the 8 people and actually find out what the problems that they have. Can you get them to pay? And if you can get them to pay for you, then that's great. Then we can figure out why, and then that'll tell you how to answer that question for the broader market. But if you can't get them to pay, then we want to understand how they're making that choice right now and why they wouldn't switch to yours. Is it because they have integrations that you don't? Is it because they're already using this and the switching costs are too high to jump to a new tool? Is it that there's something about yours that they don't like? What is that there? And then you want to talk to even more people outside just the 8 that you're talking to right now, and see if you can figure out who is that underserved segment. Who are your equivalent of like those pre-seed to Series A stage companies that just don't get enough support. Like, who are the customers out there that for these other tools for freelance graphic designers doing invoicing, time tracking, they're not getting from those? What is the group of people who are forced into using a suboptimal tool and hacking it together to do what they want because no tool out there does what they need it to do, or they're forced to not do any tool at all and do something completely different, to send invoices manually through Stripe or through their bank or through QuickBooks or something like that, because that's just like, that's all that they have, and it sucks, right? Who are those people that are out there? What makes them an underserved segment? And then we want to design software for them. The danger of actually just like building something and then getting people to use it for free and then trying to figure out how to turn it into something is that we actually haven't figured out if the thing was worth building in the first place. And it sounds like, again, based on the 3 sentences that you gave me, but it sounds we are maybe coming to terms with, we don't have a reason to exist. And nobody's going to buy something that doesn't have a reason to exist. So let's find one. Feel free to drop more detail if you happen to be watching live. Feel free to drop more detail into the chat. But otherwise, cool. Well, that's that. I got one more pre-submitted question. If you guys get live, feel free to drop them in. Cameron's out of the tree. I'm here going solo. Help me out. Throw me a bone. Get me alive. Or just say hi. It doesn't even need to be a question. Just say hi with the emoji, or tell me what you're working on. Happy to engage with you guys in other ways too. It's as much of a little hang as it is anything else. But let's move into our last pre-submitted question while you're doing that. And this is another B2B SaaS. Excellent. We're staying in territory here. A B2B SaaS for retail stores. Okay, we've left my story again. They've got an MVP in progress, and they've interviewed maybe 20 store owners, asked them about inventory management for local shops, I guess. They all say that inventory is a pain, but most already use Square or Shopify POS, which has inventory built in. Do we need to become a full POS system to compete, or stay focused on just inventory? So this is an interesting question. Before I answer it, I would say, don't have an MVP in progress. What do you like? We don't know why we're building it, what we're building it for, who the right customer. Like, stop building. We don't have enough information to build yet. We haven't found the severe customer there's a buyer who needs this particular. They're just building aimlessly. It's activity, but it's not building towards traction. It's not going to do anything. Maybe cause some rework later. So tap the brakes on that, and continue with the discovery work that you're also doing. So keep having these conversations. Now, how do you need to build a full POS? So I don't know, but my gut says probably not. That's a pretty tall order, no pun intended, to do, because you're competing with 2 really massive players that have absolutely core the market. So unless you have something really exceptional for a very underserved segment of the market that Square and Shopify just can't capture for whatever reason, or they can't, like, this group just needs something so fundamentally different, and that you can use that as a reasonable beachhead. Like, if that's the case, cool. I can't really say more about that because I don't have those details. But if that's the case, cool. If it's not, then it's like, all right, well, then maybe building the whole thing to directly compete doesn't make sense. And then it's like, okay, what is it about inventory management that Shopify and Square do that is insufficient, that itself creates an opportunity for us? Like, why do we need a separate inventory management tool? And then that's a whole set of things. And if we do, then the question becomes, all right, how does that integrate with Square and Shopify? Does it need to work? What risks does it open up in terms of these other, like, large entrenched players who are already doing something like this? Are we then just building a feature instead of a startup? There's all those questions that are going to surface as well. But I would refocus it a little bit from, we're trying to figure out inventory management. So we've talked to 20 people, and do we need to build the full POS, or can we stay focused on inventory? I'd say, like, you're still focused on the solution. Step back and focus on the problem. Like, what are the problems that the customers actually have? Which of those problems are severe and urgent to turn them into a buyer for a solution to that problem? And then that's what we want to have the conversation about. But until you can really clearly articulate what exactly it is that that sphere and urgent problem is, maybe this or should we be that is actually just a waste of time. So yeah, reality check. So cool. Franklin, what's up, my dude? Thank you for bailing me out there by by commenting. Great to see you as always. The man in the our man in the energy industry. There, I got those words out eventually. But always appreciate your support for all the things. That back. For some reason, it doesn't automatically come back. But if you've got any last questions, or things that you guys want to talk about, or if you just want to pop a coin into the machine since Cameron's not here and you want me to go a little wild, feel free to drop a coin into the machine and I will talk about whatever you want me to talk about. While I vamp for a moment to give you guys the ubiquitous 1 minute because of the delay. Two things just as a reminder: applications are open for our investment readiness engine. So if focus on really level up your customer acquisition and go to strategy, and focus on kindness and really take your startup to that next level and get that fundraising. Come work with the Traction Lab for 9 months in our investment readiness engine program, sponsored by a generous innovation grant from the city of Sacramento. So you do have to be in the region for that, but we're going to support you for 9 months and then end with a showcase where you'll compete for a $100,000 equity investment. So super fun. We're really excited about that. You can check that out at tractionlab.io. And then also we'll be kicking off next month our second cohort for the Traction Lab Venture School, which is focused entirely on getting paying customers for your startup. So if you're at the idea stage all the way through, pre-seed, where you could have just an idea and no sale, or you could have some early sales and you want to figure out how do we turn this into repeatable motion? How do we have a repeatable end? Then you can join the Traction Lab Venture School. And so hit up tractionlab.io and read about the Traction Lab Venture School as well. Looking forward to working with all y'all in those. It's been a lot of fun so far. And with that, I'm going to start to land the plane in case if another question comes in. I'm happy to take it. But Cameron's out of the country, so I've been kind of taking this a bit solo this week, which is always a bit more of a challenge. I answer questions much faster. We don't have that nice dire, the yin and the yang, and you just have the yin, and you suffer from the lack of the yang and all of that. And I've tortured that just as much as humanly possible. Maybe not, but I'm not going to test that. We'll just move on. But if you guys have any questions you want a little bit more breathing room, you can also go to tractionlab.io and hit the content button, and there's a big green button that you can push to submit your question in advance and get a little bit more breathing room in that kind of structured format. They're completely anonymous. We don't ask for email address. We don't ask for anything. We only have the detail that you give us. So that's totally fair to do, even though we do prioritize all the live questions. We've got a fun podcast episode dropping tomorrow. So if you're listening to this on live, then tomorrow, Saturday the 20th, we've got a great podcast episode dropping. It is me and Cameron, but a super fun podcast episode that will be check that out. If you're listening to this on the podcast feed, then Saturday's show is also funny, which we scheduled in advance because Cameron's going to be out of the country on. All right, we've got a frivolous question. I love frivolous questions. Is Cameron Law the double of Colin Jost? Yes. He said he's out of the country, but he doesn't pay me enough to keep this secret. So he's off, doing Weekend Update. So, if you know, you know. But the secret is out now, and it is what it is. So there you go. That's as much as I can say about that. All right. I just noticed there's actually a new little feature in Restream that I am loving. When I share a comment on screen, there is now a visual indicator that I have shared that comment on the screen. That's very handy for when our episodes are a little bit busier. Today was a little slow, probably because it's the holiday weekend too. Then that'll be super handy. So go me, love that. Celebrate with me. But since this has turned into a ramble, I'm going to go ahead and end here. I know it's usually the bottom of the half hour when everybody shows up anyway. It's just the way the algorithm. Been super fun hanging out with you guys. Always appreciate the support. Franklin, thanks for chiming in on a couple of fun topics there. And we will see you guys right here every single Friday, noon Pacific, LinkedIn, YouTube, come hang, and also check out the Traction Hub cast if you're watching the video version of this. Check out the Traction Hub podcast wherever you get your podcasts, and we have a couple of good episodes coming up. So with that, I will bid you adieu, and thanks again.